Hi, it's Cammy. Charlie Talks Football.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Charlie Talks Football. So more Newcastle United transfer news. So anyway, if you're new around here, subscribe. Let's get into the video. So the Telegraph has reported that Newcastle are set to go back in for Marc Guehi and Bryan Mbueno. Now, let's start with Marc Guehi. Of course, he was a player who Newcastle wanted last summer. We kept putting in bids. We had bids of like 50 million rejected, 60 million rejected. So it's clear that Eddie Howe does want Marc Guehi. But if we do go back in for him, let's hope it doesn't last as long as it did in the summer, because in the summer it just dragged on, and clearly Crystal Palace weren't going to sell him, but Newcastle kept trying, and in the end it just didn't work. So if Newcastle want to go back in for Marc Guehi, just make it a quick one, because I think his contract, I don't think he has that long left on his contract, but Newcastle need to go in then for him. They need to get this deal done. He's a fantastic player. If Eddie Howe wants him, I trust Eddie Howe. Of course, Newcastle do need a centre-back, because you've got Botman, who unfortunately ever since the injuries not been the same. He's struggled to get consistent minutes in the team. You've obviously got Fabian Schär, who of course he's fine, but you're going to need someone to play alongside him. Dan Burn as well. So we definitely need a younger centre-back. Marc Guehi would definitely be that. I don't think it's the most, if we were to do it, I don't think it'd be the most exciting signing, because of course Newcastle fans have known for a while that Newcastle have been heavily interested in this player, but definitely someone who I wouldn't be mad about Newcastle signing him. I would be pleased if Newcastle were able to get the deal done. So it seems like it could be early stages, but let's see what happens. And, you know, if Crystal Palace don't want to sell him again, then please, Newcastle, move on quickly. Now, let's go on to Bryan Mbuemo. Of course, he has been one of the most informed players in the Premier League. What a season he's had. He scored 20 goals for Brentford. No disrespect to Brentford, but I think people are forgetting just how good of a season he has had. There's lots of interest from Premier League clubs. Man United have been interested in him recently, but we know that he is a player who would fit in perfectly at Newcastle. Of course, with Newcastle having qualified for the Champions League, we need competition, and Jacob Murphy, as good of a season that he's had, Newcastle, well, I think Mbuemo would be a perfect player. He would come straight in, he can press the ball, he fits in Eddie Howe's style of play. Now, I think we'd probably be able to get him for around the 50 to 60 million pound mark, but again, let's see. I think this is probably one of the most likeliest deals to happen, but let's see what happens now that it has been confirmed that Newcastle have qualified for the Champions League. Now, in other transfer news, I mentioned in my last video about Juan Garcia, the goalkeeper for Espanyol, who have recently just survived in La Liga. They were close to getting relegated, but they have survived. He has had heavy interest from the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, and of course it's been well known that Newcastle are going to try and sign a goalkeeper, especially with Martin Dubravka potentially leaving the club. Now, there has been some reports from Spain, from this Spanish reporter, who said that Juan Garcia has said yes to Newcastle and that the deal could be announced in the next few days. Now, for Juan Garcia, it would be interested if he joined Newcastle, because of course Barcelona, why would you want to go to Barcelona? He's probably not going to be first choice there. Real Madrid exactly the same, because they've got one of the best goalkeepers in the world, so why you would go there? So to me, I think Newcastle is a pretty good choice for Juan Garcia. Would he come in and be our number one goalkeeper? I'm not sure. I guess it would be up to Eddie Howe to decide. But he has kept 8 clean sheets in a side, in an Espanyol side who have been struggling. So I think he would cost around £25 million. So for me, of course, it's not coming out from the most reliable of sources, but is this just a smokescreen for Newcastle potentially wanting James Trafford? Maybe Burnley want a lot of money for him, but we'll see what happens. But it definitely is clear to see that Newcastle, I personally think, will bring in a new goalkeeper this summer, whether it will be James Trafford or Juan Garcia. Now, the next player I wanted to talk about is Jacob Ramsey. Newcastle and many other clubs are interested in him, and Aston Villa missed out on Champions League qualification. They are in the Europa League. So, of course, Villa, this is a season for Villa where they'll need to sell players to make sure they don't get a points deduction. And Jacob Ramsey, look, he's versatile. He can play in lots of different positions. Of course, we could probably get him for a discounted fee. So, again, let's see what happens with all these transfer targets. Newcastle, it's key that we will have a good summer transfer window, of course. You know, we need a bigger squad for Champions League. Of course, the Champions League draw will be coming up soon. Let's see who Newcastle will play. And get your comments down below. Who would you want to play in the Champions League? Would you want to play Barcelona? Would you want to play PSG, Bayern, all of the top clubs, Real Madrid? So get your thoughts down below as well. Now, lastly, I wanted to discuss a little bit about the new Newcastle sporting director and who will it be, because as of course Newcastle announced that Paul Mitchell left the club. There's already going to be a process ongoing to appoint a sporting director and a new CEO, because of course, unfortunately, Darren Eales is also leaving Newcastle as well. So I'm sure Newcastle will have people in mind, targets in mind of who they'll want to go to for the new sporting director. Hopefully that'll get sorted out soon. And Newcastle's new home kit officially comes out in the club shop tomorrow, so I will be there to buy that. I will be doing a video on that, so make sure to subscribe. But comment down below, do you think Newcastle should go for Marc Guehi, go back in for him, go for Bryan Mbuemo? Do you think Newcastle should try and go for players outside of the Premier League? Maybe players who have got, you know, not just players who have got Premier League experience, players who can play in the Champions League. Because although Mbuemo and Guehi are good options, they don't fully excite us. I mean, maybe Mbuemo excites us a little bit, but we need world-class players at Newcastle as well. So anyway, guys, make sure to subscribe, leave your comments on all this information, subscribe for the video tomorrow, turn the notification bell on. I will be reviewing Newcastle's new home kit, deciding whether I think you guys should be buying it. I'll put it on the screen here. To be honest, initially when you know, I first saw it, I wasn't the biggest fan, but I'm sure when I'll see it in person, I will like it. But anyway, now another player who is potentially could be leaving Newcastle is Callum Wilson. Now, it has been reported, like I said in my last video, that Newcastle have offered him incentives contract, which basically means that, you know, if he gets injured, Newcastle won't pay him, which I think, to be honest, we probably should have done that at the start with Wilson's injury record and how it's not that great. But anyway, guys, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a busy transfer window. Make sure to subscribe for all the latest Newcastle United transfer news. They'll be all here on this channel. Turn on the notifications bell as well for tomorrow's video. And look, it's nice to be back posting regularly. And please get your thoughts down below. And anyway, guys, take care. Bye.